Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about Alberta Williams. So, this one is extremely sad. It's an unsolved murder. Alberta Williams was an Indigenous woman in Canada. I do apologize if I butcher some of these names. I tried to look up how to pronounce, so I think I'll be able to do it, but I just wanted to say it. If I think I can't, I will just put the name on the screen because I don't want to be disrespectful. But that is what we're going to be talking about today. So if you have not seen the previous episodes, please go watch those. My case suggestions form, it's a Google Doc that you can submit what you would like to hear next, will be in the description, and so will the sources for today's video. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Alberta Williams was a member of the Gitxsan tribe from Gitnao, British Columbia. I'm so sorry, I literally just listened to the pronunciation again, and I believe it was Gitnao, or Gitnao? I'm so sorry. I'll try to leave it on the screen. But that is in British Columbia, so I'm sorry. But Alberta lived a relatively quiet life during her childhood. Her father, Lawrence, drove logging trucks, and her mother, Rena, stayed home to care for Alberta and her siblings. They were a very close-knit family. Alberta was known as a kind and shy child, and as she got older, became known as a caring person who loved life and viewed the world as a good place, content with whatever came her way. Her siblings sometimes thought she trusted people too much and were always a little extra protective of their sister. Each spring, the Williams family would visit the coast where Alberta's father worked as a fisherman and her mother worked in the canneries. The family moved from Gitnao to Prince Rupert. Soon after, Alberta's sister Claudia moved to Vancouver, and Alberta's parents sent each of their children to stay with Claudia to attend high school there. Her parents wanted their children to get a good education and see more than what a small town could offer, which I totally agree with. I'm from a small town, and I was always taught that you need to get out even for a little bit, so definitely. But both sisters would finish high school, and they would begin working, and soon started sharing an apartment in downtown Vancouver. In Vancouver, it is not uncommon for residents to leave the city and head north for seasonal jobs. Alberta and her sister Claudia usually headed up to Prince Albert for positions at BC Packers Plant, which is a popular salmon cannery. I'm sorry, I know my accent gets in the way a little bit. The work was hard, but after a couple of months' work, the two sisters would head back to Vancouver and they would be well paid. In 1989, Alberta was 24 years old and living in Vancouver with her fiancé. It was nearing the end of the summer and she was getting ready to head back home from the summer seasonal work in Prince Rupert. She was looking forward to starting a new job as a waitress and had plans to enroll in college. So on Friday, August 25th, would mark the last day of work for Alberta and her sister Claudia at the cannery. The two planned to head to Bogey's Cabaret, also known as Popeyes. The two bars were often interchangeable to locals, as one was located upstairs and the other one would be downstairs. The bar was a well-known establishment located in Prince Rupert Hotel, where people would go to let loose after a week of work. The sisters planned to celebrate and meet up with a group of friends that night. The bar was located along 2nd Avenue West, which was located on the route Highway 16 takes through downtown Prince Rupert. So, late that night, Alberta's brother Francis Williams remembered getting a call from his sister on a payphone outside of the bar. Alberta was trying to convince him to come to the bar to party with them. Alberta was not known to be much of a partier and was someone who rarely drank, but she was excited to spend her last night in town celebrating with her friends and family in Prince Rupert. He remembered her sounding happy and carefree, and despite Alberta's request, Francis decided to stay home because he had a very early fishing trip planned with his father the next day, and he knew he couldn't miss that. But Claudia did join Alberta that night. When she arrived at Bogey's, she remembered seeing her sister laughing and having a good time with a large group of friends. The bar was crowded, and by the time Claudia arrived, there was nowhere to sit near Alberta. The bar was so packed they had joined a bunch of small tables together to form a large, long one. Claudia greeted her sister and then made her way through the bar, watching the band, chatting with friends, and occasionally checking in on her sister. She remembers the mood as a good one. Everyone was laughing, dancing, and chatting. At closing time, the more than 100 bar patrons spilled out into the streets. Claudia found Alberta outside laughing with friends. She remembered her sister trying to convince her to come along with her to a house party. During their discussion, Claudia's ex-boyfriend approached her and he wanted to talk. Claudia told her sister to wait a moment while she addressed her ex, mainly to tell him she had no plans on speaking to him that night, but when she turned back around to Alberta, she and the group of people she had been with were gone. Claudia waited around 30 minutes for her sister to reappear outside, and she went through the hotel lobby and bathroom and looked down to the adjoining streets but saw no sign of her sister. She eventually headed home, comforted by the fact that Alberta was with family and friends and would be safe with them. The next morning, Alberta's mother, Rena, awoke to find Alberta's bed still made. She phoned Claudia to ask if Alberta was with her, but Claudia reassured her that Alberta probably had a long night and had stayed over at a friend's house. That afternoon, Alberta still hadn't appeared. By dusk, her brother and father received a call from Rena, letting them know that Alberta had not been home. Rena had called around to Alberta's friends, but no one had seen her. Alberta's father and brother assured her that Alberta would turn up as they were docking for the night and would head back to Prince Rupert for the next day. But by the time Francis and Lawrence had arrived back from their trip on Sunday, Alberta was still nowhere to be found. Lawrence and Rena went to their local police station to file a missing persons report. Family and police knew something was wrong because Alberta was not the type of person to leave without telling anyone. She was not a known partier, had never run away, and most importantly, she had a return ticket back to Vancouver, which she failed to show up for. Family and friends did extensive searches throughout Prince Rupert, and police began investigating and interviewing those at the bar that night. So this next part will need a trigger warning because now we're going to get into them finding her body. So Alberta Williams was found. She was naked and was dumped in the brush along Highway 16, which is commonly referred to as the Highway of Tears. The Highway of Tears is a stretch of highway in British Columbia where an unusual number of women, who are primarily Indigenous, have gone missing or were found dead. In 2007, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police formed a task force which is solely focused on solving crimes committed against women along the Highway of Tears. At this time, the BCMT has identified 18 women connected to the Highway of Tears, including Alberta. And it is reported that Alberta Williams was physically and sexually assaulted before she was killed. As reported by the BCMP, Project E-Pana, which was named for an Inuit goddess, focuses on females who were either abducted or found dead within a mile of Highway 16, Highway 97, or Highway 5 between 1969 and 2006. Alberta Williams is one of 18 women on the task force's list. The task force specifically focuses on women who were engaging in hitchhiking or other high-risk behaviors when they were abducted or killed. However, in a 2006 interview with Daily News, which was reprinted by a town called Podunk, Claudia Williams said her sister, quote, had no reason to take off and hitchhike. She explained that her sister had plenty of money and, quote, didn't have any family problems that would have prompted her to leave without notice. That is so heartbreaking to know that so many women are dumped along there. I will include photos. It is so just eerie. They even have a sign up warning women not to hitchhike, which you might be able to see in the thumbnail as well. It's just so eerie. But next, we're going to get into the lead detective's thoughts and who they believe did it, which, if you're not familiar with this case, it's going to be crazy. So now we're going to get into the part where Gary Kerr, the lead detective, has thoughts on what happened or who did it, and we're actually going to get into who they think did it. And, sorry. It kind of makes a lot of sense, so. According to several witnesses, the night that Alberta Williams was last seen, she was last seen getting into a truck outside the now closed Popeye's pub, and the witnesses all confirmed the truck was driven by Alberta's uncle. Her uncle. But we also know that witness statements can be wrong, but her uncle's name is Jack Little. And there was another man with supposedly Jack Little, who was described as, quote, non-native and was reportedly in the passenger seat. As reported by Missing and Murdered, Alberta said Little was taking her to a party. Kerr said he became suspicious when Little, who was described as, quote, very close to Alberta, end quote, refused to disclose any details about that evening. In Kerr's opinion, Little's behavior, quote, still raises huge red flags, end quote. In an interview with Missing and Murdered, another former RCMP officer who worked with Kerr said he came to the same conclusion. Rick Ross said he and Kerr, quote, pretty much identified, end quote, Little as Alberta Williams' alleged killer within the first 48 hours. He further stated that they never really changed their minds about their initial assessment. Ross admits detectives can get tunnel vision, but he stressed the fact that he and Kerr explored every avenue, and both officers alleged that all of the evidence pointed to Little. And the thing is, I was not able to find all of that evidence. But I think what the damning fact for me was how many witnesses were able to confirm that truck was his truck. And if Alberta's not really the partier type, I highly doubt she's also the type that's just going to get in some random person's truck. I feel like she definitely knew this person, and to me that just really feels like she knew who the person was, and it was probably her uncle, allegedly, because it's still technically unsolved, and they've never really been able to actually say he did it, you know? It's like one of those things where it's like, I'm not saying they did it, but they did it, you know? So, in an interview with Missing and Murdered, Alberta Williams' aunt, Donna Marsden, said a cousin named Amanda had mentioned seeing Alberta the weekend she went missing. During an interview with investigative reporter Connie Walker, Amanda confirmed the story. According to Amanda, Alberta came to her house with Little and another man to use the bathroom and to borrow $20. So there was, in fact, an uncle and a man that were seen together. Amanda said Albert was visibly drunk when she arrived, and she eventually had to help her back to the truck. Amanda, her boyfriend Ed, and her younger sister Yvonne, who were all home when Alberta and Little stopped by, insisted it was on Saturday, which was one day after Alberta went missing. All three said they are certain of the date because Alberta said she was on her way home from her grandmother's birthday party. During their interviews with Missing and Murder, Amanda and Yvonne also said it was raining heavily that evening. However, Walker said historical weather data proves it never rained on that specific day. It is unclear whether Amanda, Yvonne, and Ed saw Alberta Williams the day after she was reported missing, or what significance it would have on the case. However, their story does match reports that Alberta was last seen with her Uncle Jack and a non-native man in a black truck. I don't know what they would have to lie about or why they would lie, so I don't know if that's kind of what the Connie Walker was trying to point to. I mean, maybe they just got their days mixed up, but the fact that she was seen after, and they knew it was after because of, the grandma's birthday party, that means she was at least alive the day after, and she was still drunk. So I would say that I believe them. I think maybe they just got mixed up that day. Maybe the weather reports were wrong. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, their story matches the eyewitness reports, so it kind of makes it more plausible that it was her Uncle Jack and the non-native man, and maybe they really didn't have nothing to do with it. Maybe they dropped her off somewhere and then something happened from there. allegedly, because I don't want to get in trouble because, again, it has not been proved that they've done anything. And I did look for it, but I was not able to find the non-native man's name. I don't know if they just never were told what it was, or if they know and they just didn't say anything, but I was never able to find it. He was always just referred to as the other man or the non-native man. But now we're going to get into the sister's words, Claudia, of what she had to say. And she says, quote, "I search for answers, think of her each and every day. I know she would do the same for me. The loss of my sister has affected my health physically and emotionally. I know I can't change the situation, but I can hope and pray for justice," end quote. And I think we can all agree that we hope that Claudia gets it. And now we're on to my final thoughts. Yeah, it was... I can't believe this much time has passed and they still have not exactly pinpointed who did it, although they kind of have an idea. And it kind of makes you feel like she might not ever get justice, although I do believe this case is solvable. I just feel like they haven't quite gotten there yet, you know? I do feel like it's solvable, but it's so heartbreaking because Alberta needs justice, Claudia needs closure, her family needs closure, and the person who did it, just they need to get behind bars. And my heart breaks for Claudia and her family, but I do kind of believe that Jack Little did it. If not Jack Little, then I feel like it would have to be like a completely random person. They said she didn't hitchhike, so maybe it was someone that she would have been at the bar with. Maybe she met someone, thought they were nice, and they ended up not being so nice. Maybe it was a supposedly a friend, although I think they would have like ruled that out and they would have mentioned it. But like, I would think that it would either be her uncle and the random man or someone she met at the bar, because if she's not the kind of person to hitchhike and party, why would she just get in a random car with someone unless she felt comfortable enough? So that's honestly what I think, but let me know what you think down below. Please don't leave any disgusting comments. I don't know if the family would ever come across this video, and they don't need to see such rude comments. I know that some people are just nasty for no reason, so I wanted to put that out there. Just be respectful in the comments, but let me know what you think down below. And yeah, like I said, I think it's solvable, and I really hope that it will be. But that is going to be all for me today, guys. If you have any cases that you would like me to talk about, my case suggestions form is in the description, and so are the sources that I used for research. So definitely check those out and do your own research on this case as well, and form your own opinions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.